Growing up in the church, what I first learned about prayer was what was taught to me. I fondly remember the Bible stories that my Nana would read to me over and over. My favorites were the story of King Josiah, the boy who became king at 8, and that of Esther. What both of these stories had in common was the power that can occur when you pray and allow God to lead your steps. Throughout my life, I can look back and laugh at some of the prayers I prayed. Lord, if you just give me this, or guide me for that, or get me through this situation. There were times that I had and continue to have a limited view on prayer, all the while ignoring the fact that God has made so many provisions for me and has answered prayers that I didn't even think of praying. One day, there was a study on prayer that I attended, and the speaker said that we should model and ask the Lord's will to be done, like in the Lord's Prayer. I was so reluctant to do this because I didn't want to submit what my will was. I thought that by praying God's will, that it meant I needed to not have any desires of my own. I was challenged to pray for God's will for a week. What a week it was. I reluctantly did it, and during that time, I learned so much through communicating with God in prayer. At first, I begrudgingly did it and would only incorporate it into my nightly prayer. Then, during spending time with God gradually, I began realizing that the reason I didn't want to pray God's will was selfish, and that I needed to trust the Lord even in my communication with Him. This allowed my whole view of prayer to change. Those times that I would pout when I would ask the Lord to give me this didn't happen as much. Circumstances allowed me to see that God's provisions were better than my own. And those times that I prayed expecting God to show up in the same way that He did for King Josiah and Esther, the Lord did that just by listening and answering my prayers, even if it meant a no or wait was the answer. At the end of the week, I could look back and see where I was versus at the beginning of the week. I could see that praying God's will not only changed my mindset of prayer, but it also reinforced my dependence and reliance on God. If you're not praying God's will in your prayers, I implore you to try it out. Prayer is powerful, and so is God's will.